Thank Hey, hey, we're back. How you doing? Happy Saturday. It's March 21st. It's officially spring in the Northern Hemisphere. Hooray. It's a little harder to tell here in Nova Scotia than it is in some parts of the world. We were just in the Bahamas and we got used to 24 degrees and then we had to get used to -5 again. But anyway, it's bearable. And today is a little bit cloudy and a little bit rainy, but whatever. Let me know if the audio is good. I've got a barrage of screens today because we're doing something a little bit different. Everybody's moving their body with the groove. That's right. So just let me know if the audio is okay. That tune, of course, is Dracula and Friends Part 1. There are two Dracula and Friendses. They're both originally from the Robot Monster album, which came out, oh my God, 23 years ago now. It's older than me. And they were kind of bookend tunes. So they're very similar tunes, but they're in two different kinds of guitar and two different tunings. And of course, today we are joined by the fabulous Julie Malía, who is on camera now. There she is. Hello.
Hi.
So yeah, Julie's here so that we can do some preparation and some recording for a couple of projects we're working on. And so we are going to talk a little bit about various kinds of groove that you can get into. And so, from my personal experience, like I grew up in Montreal, Quebec, in the 60s and 70s. And of course, it was a very funky time in the music world. And Montreal was kind of the funkiest town in Canada, for sure. Glad to see that the audio is good. Thank you for letting me know. And I was really influenced by the musical taste of my older brother, my late older brother, Rob, who was the coolest guy on the planet. And I just wanted to be just like him. So I got really good at baseball like he was, and I listened to a lot of funk and R&B and soul music. And we both took to the guitar around the same time. He was really my first guitar teacher. He was 6 years older than me, and he learned a bunch of stuff on his own and at school from his friends. And then he'd come home, and I was his little AI unit. He was feeding all the intelligence into, and it served me very well because I stuck with the 6-string. My brother moved on to the bass, the electric 4-string bass. And of course, I had to play bass too, so my studio is full of basses as well. I really should have been a bass player, but anyway, I'm doing this silly thing instead. So I chose Dracula and Friends as a really good example of my kind of groove that I often use, which is a swing-based groove. Now, you can do grooves that are sort of based on triplet feel, or you can do them in straight time. So Dracula and Friends is a really good example of a triplet feel. So what you have to imagine in a tune like that, the tune is going by like 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of. But then when you look at the transcription, I think it's written out. I didn't do the transcription. I'm just trying to remember. I think it's written out in double time. So it's kind of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then within each of those beats, you have to imagine the beats are divided into triplets. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3, 3, 2, 2, 4, 2, 3. And to get the right kind of swing groove, you're putting the emphasis on the first and third of those pulses. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1. So most of the time, there's no big emphasis on the second beat of the triplet, mostly just the first and the third. And so what you end up with is what's called a swing, where it feels like eighth notes, but instead of the eighth notes being it's you hear the difference? One's very square, where the beats are cut up into exact halves, and the other one, the first pulse is a little bit longer than the second one, right? It's actually twice as long. So because underneath is that 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 4, 3. So you're always feeling that triplet in the background. You're putting emphases on the first and third of the pulses. Okay. So what I'd like to do is bring up the transcription to give you a little look-see here. We won't do the whole tune, of course, because we're going to try to cover a fair bit of ground here between me and Julie, and want it to be just mostly for fun and looking at some ways of playing things. Okay, so the way that François Larouche, who's the guy who actually transcribed this, the way that he worked it was that, like I say, he notated it in double time. So what does that mean? It means that the music goes by pretty quickly. And so if you count it, it's like the first event is this harmonic at the 7th fret. On the solo version, I do that at the beginning. And then you have bum, 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 bum. That's about how fast the time is going by. So actually, I'm wrong. He's doing it at kind of halftime. And then he's using a lot of 16th notes to show the swing. So that's why if you look at the very beginning, like way up at the top here, above the 4/4 marking, it says moderate, and it says the metronome marking. So it says quarter note is 90. So that's like about this fast. Okay. And then you feel the triplet on the 16th note. So instead of da 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 da, you feel it da 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 da. That's the level at which you're feeling the swing. So it's like I said before, only he did write it out in halftime. And in a way that's good because it is what's called 16th note swing. So if you think about like some Stevie Wonder tunes, like Superstition, that's a 16th note swing. Or a lot of hip hop music and rap music from the 90s and into the modern day. A lot of it has that, especially early rap, like especially in the 90s and the 2000s, they were using a lot of swing feel, the same swing feel that you hear in Superstition. So what we do here, I'll just take it from the very top. You do a harmonic at beat 4 of that sort of mostly empty bar. So you count like 1, 2, 3, and then I'm just sort of playing it as a brush. And then we get this. I'll do it really slowly. So it's the first beat is, so right away we're feeling that swing underneath. Do, do, da. Okay, it's always there in the background. So you feel an 8th note on the bass note, and then 2 little 16ths, that swing, and then a little snare hit on beat 2, because characteristically, a lot of R&B music, the emphases are on the 2nd and 4th beats. So, and then now you see some dead notes there. I'm going to minimize this a little bit so you can see my hand and see how I'm playing this. The fingering is relatively simple. Now the tuning I'm using, sorry, I should have notated this. The tuning that's in the transcription is based on C, but I've taken it up a whole tone. So it makes it much closer to standard tuning. So this is something that Antoine Zufour pointed out to me, that if you play the whole tune a tone higher, then it's very close to standard tuning. So the tuning is a D on the bottom, okay, like in drop D tuning or dadgad, and then an A, so that's the same as normal. The 4th string is a D. The 3rd string is a G, like normal. Okay, now here's the only other note we have to retune. It's the 2nd string, and it goes up a semitone to C. Don't worry, your B string is very hard to break. Okay, so unless it's ancient, if you've had a B string on there for 2 years, it might break. And then your high string is an E. So the only notes that change are the bottom string goes to a D, and the 2nd string goes up to a C. Otherwise, it's standard tuning. Okay. The original tuning, if you want to play it in that, is 1 tone lower, so it ends up spelling C, G, C, F, B flat, D. Now, no matter which way you do it, essentially what you have is kind of a power chord on the bottom. In this case, it's a D power chord. And then the top of the tuning is like a C major chord when you tune to D. Okay, so the top 3 strings are what's called a 2nd inversion C chord. So it goes G, C, E, and if you do this, if you just bar across the top 3 strings of the 2nd fret and play the whole thing, you get a great big D major chord. In fact, it's the same D major chord that you get when you do this fingering with drop D. It makes sense because now this string is a semitone higher, so if you lower that note, you end up with a D chord. Okay, but the tonality of the tune is really, the modality is minor, so we're mostly using D minor chords. So like you play that D minor like this, looks a lot like an A minor, but you're moving it 1 string over. So again, the groove starts like this. I do the chord for nothing. The groove really starts at the first full bar, so it's. So I'll try to lower this so you can see my right hand a bit better. Here, we'll try this. So it's. So what I'm doing there is I'm Now, Frank didn't notate this, the right hand fingering exactly up and down. The notes are all in the right places, but the way I'm really achieving it is the kind of offbeat notes. I'm doing them mostly with my index finger. And I know we've talked about that before as a technique that I use a lot when I'm playing kind of groove bass line. So it's actually... So those little extra notes, do, little skippy notes in there. I'm actually playing those with my index finger. Okay, so that's kind of a cool thing. So the first 2 bars are like... This time I'm playing that F, instead of playing it on the 4th string, I'm playing it on the 1st string. Oh, that's right, the 6th string, rather. The 6th string. So it's the same pitch class, but down an octave. It's a way to make the same bass melody sound different the second time around. Okay? And what I'm doing with this groove that I'm playing off the top of the tune, is I'm trying to ingrain it in your head. I want you to hear this. As something that feels constant through most of the tune. I want to create basically the illusion that the bass line is there and that it doesn't change, it just keeps repeating. But what really happens later on in the tune when I bring in these things that I call horn shots, let's see if I can find those quickly on the transcription. Give me a second here. You can see the first one here at the bottom of this page. Okay, so zoom in a little bit. So I've just done this big harmonic for fun, and then a little drumming on the guitar. Then you see I play the open strings, and then again this instead of the harmonics, and then now that's as far as I get. Boom, 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 and then okay, Frank's put in this extra C in there. I'm not sure if I even play that. Then this chord. See, they're up at the 7th fret. There's this little chord on the top 3 strings, and then you go down to the 5th fret. And I'll show you how I'm achieving that. I do it by here's the bass line. So I'm playing those little triads on the top. Now remember, we said that that's a C major triad. So when I play this, that's a G triad, it's a G chord, and then this is an F chord. So what I'm doing is I'm playing what's called Dorian mode. It's kind of cool sounding, especially for funk music. And then, so I go from this major chord to this minor chord. So this is an F major to an E minor, and then to a D minor. So putting those, inserting them in the bass line, and then the bass line actually stops here and there. And I in the little cracks in the bass line, I fit in these little horn shots. So that's the really cool thing that's going on there. So what we'll do is I'll just try to take it from the beginning of the groove, and then we'll take it from where those horn shots come in here in bar 11 there, and then it goes on to the next page, and it continues down the scale like I just played, where you go down. It's just a scale pattern, but it's harmonized. So I'm playing, like I said, the G chord, the F chord, the F chord, the E minor chord, and the D minor chord, like that. And then I play this. You can see that in bar 14 there in the middle of the screen. That's a little triplet run that I do with hammer-ons, which sounds awesome at the end of the phrase. Okay, so I'll do it mostly by example here, and you can try to play along. Again, watch this on replay and practice it away from the live broadcast so that it sinks in. But what I'll do is I'll play the opening groove, and then I'll go into just the first part of the horn shot. Okay, and then we'll move on to Julie's example. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Big chord, 2, 3, 4, and then here come the horn shots. even if you make a loop of those 4 bars, 8 bars, however long that phrase is, that's really, really great practice for this kind of groove playing. Because the nice thing is, the bass line, again, it's this hallucination that it's constant, and it's not. It's actually, it stops every once in a while so we can get those horn shots in. But your brain fills in the missing notes because it's heard them already. And then you can go down that chord pattern and then do that. Basically, it's like a question and answer. It's like negative patterns, which again is very, very characteristic of Black urban music, which is the main influence for this tune. I'm just going to see if people have questions. No, everybody's just saying hi. Hi. Okay, great. So if you have any questions about that, just fire them away. Meanwhile, let's move over to Julie, and Julie's going to show you something else. By the way, I'm going to send all these PDFs to you by email through the MailChimp list, so you'll have all these PDFs to look at. We'll look at them on the screen for now, and then you can refer to them later. Alrighty, so let's get over to Julie once I find the... Here we go. Well, that didn't work. There she is. Okay, hi.
Hi.
You're on.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. I have also 2 groove examples. One is, and try to keep them very simple, because I realize sometimes when I play something and try to record it that it's pretty hard to get it if you just have a short time. But so the idea of my groove is we start on the A string.
Which one is this, Julie?
This is Moondance.
Moondance? Okay.
Yeah. That's the first one, and the second one is the groove exercise in D minor.
Okay, here I got Moondance up on the screen.
Okay, so I'm sure as a Don Ross student you're familiar with the click. But I explain it for the guys who doesn't know what it is. It's you put your thumb and you let your thumb fall on the bass strings. Sometimes it's on a 6th string, sometimes on the 5th. And what we do with our hand is we mute at the bridge, and we have a little bass line just on the first line. From bar 1 to 4, as you can see, it's written in tabs and in normal
standard
notation, standard, whatever you prefer to do. So I play. I think it's pretty easy, but when you rehearse this, I would recommend it to rehearse it with a play along. For example, that you don't play it just for yourself, because it's always helpful to play it with a play along. But I tell you more about that later. So first, the first line, I play it very slow. We start palm mute with the thumb, and we have the groove just on the 5th string, and we play it very quiet. Sorry. When I play on the 6th string, I open my palm mute. That's not in the transcription, but it sounds. Now I open. That's the first bar. If you want, you can use some cool apps like the Drum Genius. Looks like I don't know if you see this. Do you see this? Drum Genius? Yeah. It's a cool app where you have different drums settings. If you push it, you can scroll through all it, and there are even polyrhythms for you, Don.
Oh boy, Yahoo!
And or you go on YouTube and just put for example, it's 108, but maybe for practicing, start a little bit slower. One moment. I have it here. For example, I just put drum loop at YouTube, and then I have a rock beat of 4/4-takt. What is it? In
4/4 time.
4/4 time. If I just press it, just can play along with with a groove if the advertisement stops. So, do you hear that?
I think so.
And then just do the same thing. Pretty easy. That's it. Then you can go faster and try to play a bit behind the beat, on the beat, a bit forward, and play a little bit with the time. So because you're advanced players, you need more work. So we have some, the horn section, as Don called it. And as you can see, the A part in the score, it's written like 3-note voicings. And then it goes, sorry, like this. And you put this, you add this in the groove. You also can try just to play it by itself. It was be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you see, the melody is articulated, which means that the first one you give an accent on it, the second one is short with a staccato, and the third one is long. That means, and you get a staccato sound if you put your left hand, just lift the pressure on your left hand. You can keep the second finger to go down, which means 3, 4, you can practice this with a play along. One last time. Yeah, that's the melody. And now we put, if you want, you can just play the bass line. It would be this is the bass line from the A part. Sorry, I didn't say it. Put it together. Play it with a play along and so on, and really try to focus on the articulation of the high melody, because it sounds pretty boring if you do it like that. So in bar 9 there's coming a little melody which is also a little bit articulated. The first note is long, the second is short. This is the melody, and then you put the bass line on it. I would say this is the A part. If you want to do everything together with a play along, it sounds like this, just the A part. Bar 9. more fun if you play with a drummer. And you're not so shaky in your time, and it's more fun than playing with a metronome for sure. And so one thing is important in bar 9, that you stop the first bass string on the second Erzählzeit done.
The second beat?
The second beat, yeah. It's like... It's not... Don't let it ring. And maybe the last one is a little bit... This one is, in case you were wondering what I'm doing, I'm just sliding. You can use your 4th or your 3rd finger. I'm sliding from the 5th fret to the 3rd. Yeah, that's pretty. Maybe the A part. Maybe that's a little first groove example.
Yeah.
If you are interested in the whole tune, I'm sure Don sends it along, and you also can look at the other parts. There's a little B part coming, which has a little bit of arpeggios, and then a little bit of an ending. It's not very long. It's just 1.5 or 2 pages. And yeah, but for now, maybe as a groove example, we stay with the A part, and I give the word to Don.
Alrighty. Sorry about the little camera problem I had there, but it eventually worked its way out. So, as you know, these are live and anything can happen. So, thanks, Julie. That was so cool. It's nice to have tunes that sort of display groove possibilities that are within reach of most players, and that tune Moon Dance is a really good example of that. Dracula and Friends, the groove itself isn't so bad. It's maybe a little bit next level, but not too bad. I tried also to pick another one.
Instagram now lets you send.
Sorry.
I tried to pick another one also that has a groove in straight time. So we talked already about that sort of swing 16th rhythm that sounds really amazing. I mean, like I say, it's heard throughout a lot of R&B based music over the last several decades. And I'll show you one that is actually the first example of this kind of writing, this kind of question and answer with a groove bass line that I ever did. Okay, and I wrote this tune a very long time ago. It's interesting when you put out this many albums, you realize, holy smokes, it almost feels like your tunes are catching up to your own age. So I wrote this tune in 1980, probably 87 or 88, and it's on my very first album, which was called Bearing Straight, which came out in 1989. Yeah, so I recorded in 1988. So I have a handwritten tablature of it. Oh my God. It's so cool. So you get to see what my music calligraphy looked like. This was early 90s. I did a book called The Answer Book. And at the time, the computer I had did not have notation software on it. Like I say, this is the early 90s. And my daughter Tara had just been born. So her poor mom, of course, was exhausted most of the time. So most mornings, Kelly would sleep in. I'd get up with the baby after she got fed. And then I would, just this tiny little girl, I would hold her on my arm. Her head would be in my hand, my left hand, and her body would be along my arm. She was so tiny. And I just held her like that, and I would transcribe with my right hand directly onto manuscript paper. So my joke in the book is that my daughter will probably grow up with a healthy fear of written music. So, there's even a tune that I dedicated to Tara that's one of the tunes in the book. But yeah, so I learned how to do music calligraphy when I did my bachelor's degree. Again, nobody really had access to good notation software back then. So we had to learn how to do it by hand. Now, this was actually a very quick job. If I had a very fancy score to do, I would use an Osmeroid pen, this pen that sort of, it was like a fountain pen. If you used it in a certain direction at a certain angle, it would be thicker lines, and it would be thinner lines if you used a different angle. I learned how to do very beautiful looking scores like that, and I did a lot of work with straight rulers and all this kind of stuff, and curved line rulers. This one I just did with marker pens, but it looks pretty good for something I did by hand. And you can see I wrote this, it says that I wrote it in 1990, which doesn't sound right because it's on my first album, which was before that. So I think I got no, maybe it's on my second album. I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. So there is a roadmap page on these ones from this book. So you can see here I list the tuning, which is a D minor 7th. So it's not that far from where we are. So you can see the bottom string is a D, the 5th string is an A. Now the 4th string does go down a whole tone to a C. Let's see where I am. I'm just going to tune my tuner on. So there's the bottom 3 strings more or less in tune. Then the 3rd string, in this case, goes down as well. So this can sometimes be a problem. That 3rd string, the G, on a steel string guitar is very easy to break, even if you're heading downwards. If it's been sitting at G for a long time, sometimes the metal fatigue sets in, and even when you tune it down a tone like that, it'll break. So if you're breaking a string right now, I apologize. Then the 2nd string is a C, and the tuning from Dracula and Friends used the C there as well, so that much is the same. Now the high string goes down to a D. So it's a little bit of a hassle, but at least some of the notes. The D and the A are the same. The other 4 strings do change, but not too radically. Okay. So we end up with what's called a D minor 7th chord. D minor is D, F, A. So you can see all 3 notes are there, the D and the F and the A. The 7th is the C, so I actually have it there twice. There's 2 instances of the C in the voicing. And the opening groove, again, this is not swing. This is in straight time. Now, you can see that sometimes there are triplets written in. Now, that's a special technique. I'm just going to close this for a second and show you the special technique. I'll just move it down the page. That gets rid of it. So there's a technique that I use that comes up a lot in my pieces. I think I've mentioned it before quite often in our get-togethers. But years ago, I had a student who pointed out to me that I do this quite often, and I was not even conscious of it. It's funny, I didn't realize that what I was doing something extraordinary. He said, no, it's that thing you just did. What's that? And I went, wait, what's what? And he says, that thing where you go, and I went, oh, yeah, right. So it's this idea where I hit a bass note, and then I do a triplet quickly, usually on 3 strings somewhere. Very often it's the top 3 strings, or sometimes it's strings 2, 3, and 4. And I do them with fingers IMA. So I go P and then IMA as a very quick 16th note triplet. And then right after it, I follow it with a brush, usually with my ring finger. So that kind of move. And so to me, it sounds a lot like a snare drum, like when a drummer does a kind of little run on the snare, like bum da da. Okay, you hear that a lot. I don't know what that's called. I think it's maybe called a paradiddle. I have to look it up. But it's a move that very often drummers do. Sometimes they do it as like beat 4 of an intro. 1, 2, 3, da boom, boom, like that. So it's a cool way to get into a groove like that. Right off the top, I'm doing it kind of on beat 2, I guess. Actually, it's that second half of beat 1. So I'll bring the transcription back up. That is the essential move I'm making. And then, so you can see in this particular case, I'm playing harmonics on the 12th fret. And I say that I'm playing strings 5 and 4 together, and then string 3 and then string 2 as harmonics, and then the brush afterwards on the top 3 strings. Yeah, you can do that. You can also just play single notes. You don't have to double up like on strings 5 and 4 there. You can just do, there I was just playing strings 4, 3, 2, or no, 5, 3, 4. Yeah, bass note and then 5, 3, 4, and then brush. As long as the most important thing is not so much the individual notes, it's that you're playing that chord, okay, so that's the D minor 7th chord, and you're playing it in a certain way rhythmically, okay? So so you can see that in the first 2 beats. And then what I do in the bass line after that, you can see I play an E on the 2nd fret here, and then an F. So the result is kind of like this. It's like, see, again, fitting that bass line in the spaces like that. Like that, just that much again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Let's make a little loop of it. 4 and 4. Even that's kind of a cool basis for a little dance groove. Just the first 2 beats of the tune. All right. Then what I do is I punctuate the latter part of the bar with these little harmonics, as I want to do. Okay, I'm going. So you can see that they're brushes in opposite directions. Now, of course, always with brushes, the confusing thing on the guitar is that the high notes on the page in both the standard notation and the tablature are higher up on the page. I mean, that sort of makes musical sense. But of course, the instrument is set up so that your lowest notes are way up high and your highest notes are way down low. So when you see what looks like an up arrow, you're actually doing a down brush. Okay, so I'll show you physically what I'm doing there. So when you see this up arrow here actually, towards the end of that first bar, see there's an up arrow and then a down arrow. So the up arrow is a down movement like that. Sorry, I guess I'm playing it like, yeah. So I'm playing the down movement on the high harmonics at the 5th fret, and then an up move at the 7th fret. So don't get too confused by the ups and downs of the arrows. You kind of have to invert the image a little bit, always with guitar music, again, because the low notes are written in the opposite physical place than they are in the guitar, and same with the high notes. Okay, so that whole bar sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's make a loop of that one bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again, getting the tab out of the way so you can see both hands a little better. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, this is not swinging. You hear how it's the difference? Before we were getting this, if I were going to swing it, it would sound more like this. No, that's not right. I've never played this one swinging. It sounds cool as a swing. Cool. It sounds really cool as a swing. But this one doesn't swing. But that's also something you hear again in urban music. Sometimes they do grooves that are very much 4 to the floor, square grooves like that. Boom, chicka, boom, boom, chicka, boom, chicka, boom, boom. That's what this is kind of based on, that kind of groove. So let's see if we can do another little bar or two here. So after we've done that first bar like that, then there's an open A string at the end of the first bar. So we do... That was terrible. Again. Open string there. And then what I do is I play this little B flat chord. So again, I'm doing that Rasgueado thing that student that ended up calling that move a Rasgueado instead of a Resgueado. A Rasgueado, very cute. So, oh, I wish it was in a better tune, but anyway, you get the idea. And then the last little move is a C chord. Right, it's like a. So I'm playing a C sus, then a harmonic at the end. So the 2 bars together, I'll just play them. It sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Doing a couple of variations there, but more or less it's like that. It sort of continues throughout. If you look at bar 3, it's a slight variation. It's like like that, where instead of doing the rasgueado, you just do a quick 16th shot there at the end of the bar, end of the beat like that. That's another really characteristic thing, especially about straight time swing, is 16th note pushes and 16th note articulations like that. Really, really cool. It actually, when things are just ahead of the beat or just behind the beat, they're always like, the syncopated rhythm ends up, like a lot of people call it like a musical surprise when it happens. And that's kind of the point in a lot of groove music. You've got a very strong sense of where the time is happening, but then you also have this stuff that kind of throws you off a little bit, but it's cool. Like boom, ba, boom, boom, beep, boom, ba, boom, like that. And that combination of straight time and syncopation, that's what makes grooves like that really, really work. Okay? So you can just turn those 2 bars basically into an exercise to get yourself into a straight time groove. Let's try it one more time. Just a loop of 2 bars. And if you want to improvise a little bit and play it your own way, that's fine. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do 4 more. Little variation for fun. So that's how the intro groove goes. Later on, we won't do it today, but what's really sweet about this tune, the thing that it shares in common with Dracula and Friends, is this question and answer that starts taking over. And again, you leave out little snippets of the bass line to make room, but again, you keep hearing that bass line. Variation where it goes. I invert those 2 chords. A little harder to play, but kind of cool to do it. Then you go back to playing it the same way as you did the first 2 times. Okay, so that's like the intro and the A groove. Like I say, I'll send you the tab by email, and you can try it on your own. And try it with a recording as well. It's a lot of fun. Again, it's on the Bearing Straight album. There's also a duet version that I did with Callum Graham on the 1234 album, which is actually really cool. The arrangement worked out really well for 2 guitars as well. Okie dokie. I'm going to hand it back to Julie, and she'll show you another groove that you can try out. All right, just here we go to the other camera. All right, should be on any second. There she is.
Hi. So cool groove, Donnie.
Thank you.
So I try to write another groove in standard tuning because my people who play guitar with me are steel string and nylon players, and playing in open tunings with a nylon guitar is always a little bit tricky. So I try to do a little new groove in D minor and for standard tuning, and we have. Do you have this chord on it?
Which one is it?
It's a groove exercise in D minor.
In D minor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have another horn section, which has like you play. What is Dreiklänge? Triplets?
Triplets. Yeah. Or no, in that case, you're playing Dreiklänge is triads.
Triads. Yeah. That's the melody. First line now, and try to stop when you see the pause in the transcription. Stop to the strings with their E, M, and A finger, or I. As if I always change it. then we add the bass note, always on the first beat. And then we put a F. And then we make a barré chord. And then the last chord. This is the second line I've called B part at bass. I play it again. Sorry. One more time. So, and now comes a little groove. You see it with dead notes on the letter D at the end of the page. So what I try before I go in a groove, I always try to play the groove with dead notes. So you mute your left hand and you go just to the right. The first chord would be a P, I, M, A together. Then just the top strings. And then there comes a click, and then E, P, and the top strings. Just to hear. I hope you can hear it through the microphone.
Yeah, it's coming through.
Maybe ask them.
Yeah, it's coming. No problem.
Okay, and the last four notes is a click, the index finger, P, and index again. So it's okay. So if you go to C, then you see that I added the triads together with the dead note exercise, which sounds when I play it slow. It's harder to play it slow than fast. So again. There's a lot of pee-pee going on. So you can play it in the a little bit faster. What's important is that you don't play the middle voices the same volume like the top voices, that you then just put the melody out and keep the other things. Also the click, it's also a rule for moon dance. The louder you play the click, the less groovy it gets. So keep it not like too loud when you hit the guitar. Then it gets a little bit more groovy. I try to play the melody a little bit louder and to add a little. This would be like 80. Good practicing tempo. I play, when I play the groove, I like to play it a bit faster. like Don says, the Germans play everything too fast. Yeah, that's a little groove you can work on, and I think it's also not that complicated. I would suggest to do the methodic steps, like starting with the melody, adding the bass on the first beat, then doing the dot notes, and then trying to put everything together. And you can ask your genius drummer again with the app. I think even the app is free. And have fun and play around, and also try to play in this different volumes and get as groovy as hell.
Because we all know hell is the grooviest place going. Awesome. Thanks, Julie. So I hope y'all got a lot out of this week. So we've got a couple minutes left. If you have any questions or comments, just send them through on YouTube and we'll deal with them. Like I say, I'm going to send along the PDFs of all of these exercises and tablatures for you. I'll do that through the MailChimp email list. So in the next few minutes, you'll get all of those. Also, happy to say that I finished a set of 8 lessons where I teach Klimbim. Man, it's a lot of work making those lessons. I'd forgotten just how much work it is. But yeah, like I say, it's 8 parts. I go through it very methodically, talk about the tuning, the approach, the intro, the theory behind the tune, and then we go through the whole tune and eventually play it all together at the end. So it's one of my hits. It's going to be basically part of the advanced module. So I'm going to try to create more advanced and intermediate level stuff while I'm home for the next few weeks. It's part of what I'm doing. And yes, Stephen, you were right. Lucy Watusi is on my second album. It's on the Don Ross album. And yeah, that's a solo version. All right. Don't see any rush to ask too many questions. But thanks again to Julie for being along once again. Always nice to have her guesting. And I thought for fun, speaking of groove, we may as well watch a very groovy video that just came out. And oops. Wrong. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. Well, look, I'll choose one here off the ones that I just downloaded. We'll try that again. All right. So our friend Sariola, who visited us, I guess, a couple of months ago and did a nice live interview with us, and also has been a guest before here on the DRGA stream. He's got a new single out from his latest album. And once again, of course, it's brilliant. And beautifully edited video, and Sariola is an amazing sound engineer, so he gets this larger-than-life guitar sound. So I thought, for fun, since we're talking about groove, let's listen to a really great groovy tune to close out, and we'll see you again next week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.